Sahih al-Bukhari 1381. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Allah's Messenger, P.B.U.H, said, any Muslim whose 3 children died before the age of puberty will be granted paradise by Allah because of His mercy to them. Sahih al-Bukhari 1382. Narrated al-Bara. When Ibrahim, the son of Prophet, expired, Allah's Messenger said, there is a wet nurse for him in paradise. Sahih al-Bukhari 1383. Narrated Ibn Abbas. Allah's Messenger, P.B.U.H, was asked about the children of mushrikeen, pagans. The Prophet replied, since Allah created them, He knows what sort of deeds they would have done. Sahih al-Bukhari 1384. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet was asked about the offspring of pagans, mushrikeen, so he said, Allah knows what sort of deeds they would have done. Sahih al-Bukhari 1385. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, every child is born with a true faith of Islam, i.e. to worship none but Allah alone, and his parents convert him to Judaism or Christianity or Magianism, as an animal delivers a perfect baby animal. Do you find it mutilated? Sahih al-Bukhari 1386. Narrated Samura bin Jundab. Whenever the Prophet finished the morning prayer, he would face us and ask, who amongst you had a dream last night? So if anyone had seen a dream he would narrate it. The Prophet would say, Mashallah, an Arabic maxim meaning literally, what Allah wished, and it indicates a good omen. One day, he asked us whether any one of us had seen a dream. We replied in the negative. The Prophet said, but I had seen a dream last night that 2 men came to me, caught hold of my hands, and took me to the sacred land, Jerusalem. There, I saw a person sitting and another standing with an iron hook in his hand pushing it inside the mouth of the former till it reached the jawbone, and then tore off one side of his cheek, and then did the same with the other side. In the meantime the first side of his cheek became normal again and then he repeated the same operation again. I said, what is this? They told me to proceed on and we went on till we came to a man lying flat on his back, and another man standing at his head carrying a stone or a piece of rock, and crushing the head of the lying man with that stone. Whenever he struck him, the stone rolled away. The man went to pick it up and by the time he returned to him, the crushed head had returned to its normal state and the man came back and struck him again, and so on. I said, who is this? They told me to proceed on, so we proceeded on and passed by a hole like an oven, with a narrow top and wide bottom, and the fire was kindling underneath that hole. Whenever the fire flame went up, the people were lifted up to such an extent that they about to get out of it, and whenever the fire got quieter, the people went down into it, and there were naked men and women in it. I said, who is this? They told me to proceed on. So we proceeded on till we reached a river of blood and a man was in it, and another man was standing at its bank with stones in front of him, facing the man standing in the river. Whenever the man in the river wanted to come out, the other one threw a stone in his mouth and caused him to retreat to his original position, and so whenever he wanted to come out the other would throw a stone in his mouth, and he would retreat to his original position. I asked, what is this? They told me to proceed on and we did so till we reached a well-flourished green garden having a huge tree and near its root was sitting an old man with some children. I saw another man near the tree with fire in front of him and he was kindling it up. Then they, i.e. my 2 companions, made me climb up the tree and made me enter a house, better than which I have ever seen. In it were some old men and young men, women and children. Then they took me out of this house and made me climb up the tree and made me enter another house that was better and superior to the first, containing old and young people. I said to them, i.e. my 2 companions, you have made me ramble all the night. Tell me all about that I have seen. They said, yes. As for the one whose cheek you saw being torn away, he was a liar and he used to tell lies, and the people would report those lies on his authority till they spread all over the world. So, he will be punished like that till the day of resurrection. The one whose head you saw being crushed is the one whom Allah had given the knowledge of Quran, i.e. knowing it by heart, but he used to sleep at night, i.e. he did not recite it then, and did not use to act upon it, i.e. upon its orders etc., by day, and so this punishment will go on till the day of resurrection. And those you saw in the hole, like oven, were adulterers, those men and women who commit illegal sexual intercourse. And those you saw in the river of blood were those dealing in riba, usury. And the old man who was sitting at the base of the tree was Abraham, and the little children around him were the offspring of the people. And the one who was kindling the fire was Malach, the gatekeeper of the hellfire. And the first house in which you have gone was the house of the common believers, and the second house was of the martyrs. I am Gabriel, and this is Michael. Raise your head. I raised my head and saw a thing like a cloud over me. They said, that is your place. I said, let me enter my place. They said, you still have some life which you have not yet completed, and when you complete that remaining portion of your life, you will then enter your place. Sahih al-Bukhari 1387. Narrated Hisham's father. Aisha said, I went to Abu Bakr during his fatal illness, and he asked me, in how many garments was the Prophet shrouded? She replied, in 3 suhuliya pieces of white cloth of cotton, and there was neither a shirt nor a turban among them. Abu Bakr further asked her, on which day did the Prophet die? She replied, he died on Monday. He asked, what is today? She replied, today is Monday. He added, I hope I shall die sometime between this morning and tonight. Then he looked at a garment that he was wearing during his illness, and it had some stains of saffron. Then he said, wash this garment of mine and add 2 more garments and shroud me in them. I said, this is worn out. He said, a living person has more right to wear new clothes than a dead one, the shroud is only for the body's pus. He did not die till it was the night of Tuesday and was buried before the morning. Sahih al-Bukhari 1388. Narrated Aisha. A man said to the Prophet, P.B.U.H, my mother died suddenly, and I thought that if she had lived she would have given alms. So, if I give alms now on her behalf, will she get the reward? The Prophet replied in the affirmative. Sahih al-Bukhari 1389. Narrated Aisha. During his sickness, Allah's Messenger was asking repeatedly, where am I today? Where will I be tomorrow? And I was waiting for the day of my turn, impatiently. Then, when my turn came, Allah took his soul away, in my lap, between my chest and arms, and he was buried in my house. Sahih al-Bukhari 1390. Narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger, in his fatal illness, said, Allah cursed the Jews and the Christians, for they built the places of worship at the graves of their prophets. And if that had not been the case, then the Prophet's grave would have been made prominent before the people. So, the Prophet was afraid, or the people were afraid, that his grave might be taken as a place for worship. Sahih al-Bukhari 1390b. Narrated Abu Bakr bin Ayyash. Sufyan at-Tamr told me that he had seen the grave of the Prophet, elevated and convex. Sahih al-Bukhari 1390c. Narrated Urwa. When the wall fell on them, i.e. graves, during the caliphate of al-Walid bin Abdul Malik, the people started repairing it, and a foot appeared to them. The people got scared and thought that it was the foot of the Prophet. No one could be found who could tell them about it till I, Urwa, said to them, by Allah, this is not the foot of the Prophet, but it is the foot of Umar.